Good afternoon, the Rochester community. Welcome to the Equity Alliance Equity Series. My name is Wafa Al Khalifa, and I work for Destination Medical Center as the Equitable Development Coordinator. I'm here with my colleague and partner, Chow Matala. She serves the City of Rochester as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director. We would like to welcome you all to the March episode of the Equity Series. Let me see here if did it go to the next slide? No.
We did not.
Just one. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And I would just like to remind everyone who's joining us today that you can find all the past episodes of the Equity Series on the Destination Medical Center YouTube channel. So feel free to check out all the previous episodes. We've had some really interesting topics that we've discussed last year and so far this year. And then if your organization is interested to learn more about the Equity Alliance or the Equity Series, and if you would like to join this initiative in our community, feel free to contact me or Chow, and here's our contact information. But for today, we would like to welcome Mikeya Griffin. And Mikeya serves as the Executive Director for the Rondo Community Land Trust. Mikeya today will be discussing uncovering Rondo Community Land Trust and the Reparative framework. And this is an opportunity where we get to learn from our past in order to make more equitable changes in our future. We're so honored and we're so pleased to welcome you, Mikeya, to our community. And I want to encourage everyone, as Mikeya will begin her introduction, is to go ahead and share your name and the organization that you associate with. And don't hesitate any moment to type your questions or concerns. Chow and I will be monitoring the chat. Welcome, Mikeya.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Give us 1 second. We're gonna get our PowerPoint going. But for those of you that are in the room today, I want you to just take a few minutes. Let's center ourselves. I want you to take a second or two. And I want you to think about the place that you call home, the place that makes you feel safe, secure, or just your one favorite place that you like to go at, that you love. And I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about what that means to you as we get ready to dive into this. And I say that because, as I like to always say newish executive director of Rondo Community Land Trust, it's been a couple of years, but I always want to say new. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about all things the Rondo community and then the Rondo Community Land Trust and what we do. And I want to ground us a little bit in our history. So when we think about the place that we call home, the place that we love the most, I have a really awesome and amazing job. I love the fact that I get to provide affordable housing and economic development opportunities for everyone in Ramsey County. And that's such a privilege. But as a daughter of Rondo, it's the weight and the honor of being able to come back to my community and have significant impact in what I know that we could do in terms of resurrecting and righting wrongs. And I'm showing you a map from 1935. And you'll see where the red box is around there, where it says largest Negro section in the city. And I will tell you that when my family came to Minnesota, they stopped in. Do you see over here where it says the Gold Coast? I know you can't really see it. I don't know if you can see my little thing there, but where it says Gold Coast, when they drove up from Port Gibson, Mississippi, they stopped at the Gold Coast and they asked, where do the colored people stay? And they were directed to Rondo Avenue. Rondo Neighborhood was the largest African-American enclave in the state of Minnesota at the time. And so they were directed to Rondo, and they rented a rooming house on Rondo Avenue. And let's talk a little bit about historic Rondo. So for many around the nation, actually, there was a, after the war, after, getting our Juneteenth, after having our freedom here, from the 1920s on, there was really a time of prosperity for African Americans in the United States, and more prolifically, none more prolifically really than Rondo. The Rondo community really became, we were forced basically, actually through segregation, redlining, and racial covenants to actually live and congregate with one another. But you know what, that's home for us. We knew how to do that. We do that, done that as a community. But and starting in the 20s, we really started looking at that prosperity around solidarity community. And, Rondo was a very cooperatively, culturally rich and insular community where it's, Black and you had rich and poor. You had folks that were just, doctors, lawyers, grocery stores. If you can see the picture where the woman is singing on the side, that's the Kretcher Fund society, and they actually, we had to create our own like social clubs and things like that here in the community. And so that was created back then. And they actually moved to gathering people together, and they opened the first credit union, and they had a cooperative grocery store that was owned by the community members and members of the community. And Tiger Jack's, which is one of the last remaining stores, and we'll talk a little bit about what happened to Rondo, one of the last remaining stores, and actually grew up right down the street from Tiger Jackson. He used to give us breakfast in the morning because I would catch my bus on that corner. But anyway, that's kind of the setting of where Rondo was up till probably the 40s. If you look at this, in fact, this happened to over 800 communities across the United States. The Rondo community really had the fabric and the community ripped apart when 94 came through, and as well as, urban renewal. But 94 was the first kind of culprit that came through. And if you can look, you'll see that there was a very well planned community that was full of grass and green. And then you look to where we're at right now, where 94 basically divided the community. And there were I will say there was well over 700 homes. That's what we have documented. Thousands of families displaced, and over 400 businesses were lost. There's some research that was done, and this is just 94. Over 157 million, I would say way more than that, was really lost in intergenerational wealth. So I want to ground us in the fact that there was significant harm done to the community. As I like to say, we're just minding our own little business, living our lives totally fine. And, policy came through it. And that still impacts the community today. And I want to ground us there. Now, then you add on redlining and racial covenants. And the community really didn't have a lot of spaces to go. So I just want to have us go there. Then I want to talk a little bit about the Community Land Trust. The Community Land Trust movement here in the state of Minnesota and in Rondo, born out of the Black experience, when again, different policies and changes that the city of St. Paul, they were trying to do something, to beautify and do the things that they needed to do. But those policies, in fact, it started impacting the folks that were already impacted by the fact that they had lost so much through 94. So community members got together and in the 80s, and They were trying to figure out, how do we preserve affordable homeownership in the community? And the Community Land Trust really emerged from the voices in the community around that. I'd also like to say that, as a kid growing up in Rondo, my bedroom, and being divided by that highway, my bedroom actually faced the freeway. The environmental impacts of that, had consequences to me as I was growing up, and the fact that my family was divided by the highway. And we would have to walk across these rickety, kind of caged little paths to go across the freeway, if we walked, and to go over to my cousin's house that lived on Marshall Avenue. And so, like, just the continuation of disinvestment in the community was palpable. As a kid growing up, you don't understand the impacts really that it makes, but then as an adult, you're like, wow, 1993, Rondo Community Land Trust becomes the first community land trust in the state of Minnesota. And I want to talk about the origins of the Community Land Trust itself. The origins of the Community Land Trust are Black. They are rooted in our Black history, and I really love bringing that up. In the 1960s, when this Nonviolent Student Union Committee was out organizing down south around civil rights and the right to vote. The charades, all hail the charades around the about the work that they did around being the first folks to jump into and really try to find a way that talked about land. All land comes, all power comes from the land. And so their goal around that was, can we find a way, because they were people really, they wanted a right to vote. They didn't want to be under segregation anymore. And when they were organizing, folks were getting kicked off their land. They were in so much harm and violence committed to folks. So they went around crowdsourcing. We know how to do that really well as a community. They went around and they raised $1 million back in the 60s. They actually purchased the largest tract of land. At the time, it was the largest tract of land in the United States. And they called themselves New Communities. And New Communities was really about land control for Blacks that were living in the South there, to be able to have and write their own, control their land, control what happens under shared equity. And that is so central to us as a community at the same time. And they envisioned an entire community of housing and agriculture and Main Street and all the education, all those things that make a community sing, where they would actually have control of that. And so that really birthed the Community Land Trust movement in the United States. Today, there are over 460 community land trusts across the United States. Really, really focused on, as it proliferated, it became more focused on preserving permanently affordable homeownership opportunities. Okay. Whew. This gets me gassed up, because I just, love ensuring that we know that this movement was started through the Black experience.
And this is your own experience, and you're speaking from the heart to our audience. This is history for the whole community in Minnesota, and your history too.
It is. And I would also like to state that, remember, Rondo Community Land Trust was the first community land trust in the state of Minnesota, born
Wow.
out of the Black experience here in the Rondo community, where community members got together and said, we want to figure out, how do we preserve affordable housing, because we are again getting pushed out of housing. And I think, just again, let's there are some well-intended things that happen with policy, but the consequences to Black and Brown communities are always felt. And for those of us that don't know what a community land trust is, I'll give you a little primer here. They're community-based nonprofit organizations, and they're governed by a board of residents, community residents, and public representatives. They're designed to ensure long-term community ownership, stewardship, and assets of land. And they're really under shared ownership opportunities. And there are ways that we have classic CLT and home ownership, and then they have what Rondo Community Land Trust is doing, which is saying, look, we're gonna reach back into to what we know. And I'm going to reach back into what I know. I'm going to reach back into what I know as a community member growing up in a predominantly Black community, and how we had, solidarity economy through our work and our lens. And that is exactly the expression that new communities wanted to have. And by the way, through policy and other racist, programs, they weren't able to rezone to create that world that they saw for themselves. And so not only do I have the shoulders of my ancestors here in Rondo who have been fighting the way, but I also stand on the shoulders of the Sherrards who started new communities and their expression of what the Community Land Trust is. Okay, I'm gonna try to get through this. So that's what we get to do. Today, Rondo Community Land Trust, though we serve all of Ramsey County, we've grown, to do that. And Rondo and others through our reparative framework, we serve as the community anchor and leveraging the CLT model as an extremely versatile tool suited for innovation. We're nimble. It's all around land control, and it's all about, shifting the paradigm of community ownership and community development. And so Rondo does everything from housing to economic development. And what we really are looking for in our work that is embodied in everything that we do is around this reparative framework that really says, what are the past harms that have been done in communities? And then how do we use what we know how to do best to build better for the future? And so right now, our reparative framework really starts in solidarity economy. It starts really in that shared ownership and stewardship and asset of land. And then how are we doing business with each other? What are our values and goals around whether you're a individualist and you want to not be in a shared, that's fine. But how do we solidarity get back to each other as community? It's focused in on democratic and dignified labor. We own where we want to be a catalyst to owning labor, to working with, we're a developer working with, there are so many people that get wage theft, those kinds of things. So we want to be able to be in that realm. And culture as a source of healing, which is so important. And then place-based. So Rondo is place-based. We use all of these tools and how we work to create a way that looks at everything through a lens of what harm was done, how do we repair that harm, and then what are those unique things that happen, and how do we then move to the future that is in a world that we create that is that takes into the consideration how we want to work together. And here's around our theory of change, right? For Rondo Community Land Trust, if we grow our residential portfolio and we expand the commercial land trust. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Oh my goodness. See, look, I get all excited about all the things that we're doing. I forgot to tell you all that not only were we the first community land trust in housing in the state of Minnesota, but we were also the first community land trust to apply the model to commercial uses in the state of Minnesota. So, okay, all right, let's go back. Let's go back to the theory of change, right? They're gonna be mad at me that I messed up this PowerPoint, presentation, but it's okay. So
Nope, it's totally fine.
I appreciate you all. I like having it. Look, just act like you're sitting in my living room talking to me because we're all in community together. Anyway, Our theory of change is if we, grow our residential portfolio, if we expand the commercial land trust model, then and better implement as many shared ownership opportunities that we can, then what we can do is really get back to that expression of who Rondo was by creating these really awesome, vibrant cultural economic nodes. And at the end of it, if we're not building people power, then what are we doing? I want to talk a little bit about our residential programs and how we roll here, and how that economic development and our reparative framework show up in our programs. So our residential programs, one, well, we have to update the slide. We've got about between us and partner organizations, we have about 750 units in pipeline of production. Right now, we're growing. We work through our neighborhood legacy work that we do, and we have something called, specifically for Rondo, the Rondo community, is our right to return. So those folks and families that have been displaced, or members of the community that haven't been able to stay in the community one way or another, we want them to come back to the community to be, part of this wonderful. I don't look at our work as a movement; it's a lifestyle. Come be part of this work that we're doing. So anyway, right to return, we repair folks with a significant investment to come back to the community. We were actually awarded a $2.2 million appropriation to deepen that work. We work with the city of St. Paul and their inheritance fund. Because we are community income, because we're in the community, we want to ensure that government isn't telling who gets to say yes or no to that, right? Let the community help decide who gets to say yes, because we know who's here and who isn't. And we have ways of finding out who your people are, who they're not. And so I'm appreciative to the city of St. Paul for partnering with us on the inheritance fund. And then we have our right to stay, right to remain. And that's really right now working with legacy families and business owners to stay in the community, or to be able to have that rightful transition with their properties in Rondo community. And there are so many things that we see happening just even today, where people are in danger of being displaced because taxes, code compliance issues, because they can't, they don't have the money to upkeep their property. We're still suffering through low valuation of Black and brown homes here, but while we're being taxed the most in property taxes. And so on top of that, when we have elders, we just had our 8th elder come to us because in the last couple of weeks, they need support. In many different ways, including sometimes it's the, predatory practices of reverse mortgages that we're trying to help right. And the fact that, they've had to, end of life care, things like that. So now the family is being faced with, on top of all the things, they're also being faced with no transfer of any of their wealth because there's Medicaid, Medicare liens on their house. So we're working at ensuring that we're looking at all of those things to repair those past harms for families, to ensure that families are keeping wealth in their community. And then as part of our commercial programs, kind of the same thing, where we have legacy folks. We have about 40,000 additional square feet in future developments currently now in our world here of commercial space and growing. We're buying more things, but we right now on Selby Avenue, commercial rents are going anywhere from $20,000 to $40 a square foot. We rent out at $7 a square foot, and that's permanently, so to be able to support culture-bearing businesses, to be able to support Black businesses here in the community is really what we're doing. And our right to return is if you've got significant history and roots in Rondo, you get first bite at that boat. You get first right of refusal in any of our spaces that we have. And then we have our right to stay, right to remain, where we're really looking at preserving Black-owned businesses in the community. And then, you know what? Sometimes y'all, look, you can build it, but they ain't coming. They ain't coming. You know, we got what else are we doing and charged with as a community anchor to activate the spaces that we have? So, in preservation of one really great business that we had here, Golden Time, here in the community, which served as a community anchor itself. That's where people went to go get the news, all the things. We purchased Golden Time Cafe, and we're actually using the current space as a business accelerator for other Black-owned restaurateurs who are trying to figure out, how do we have a brick and mortar? What does that look like? And then we are actually taking the Golden Time Coffee and Cafe. We're opening another location, and we're working on, because again, solidarity economy, if I've got places all across, Ramsey County where we can actually put a Golden Time Coffee and Cafe, then we're cooking with gas, right? We're taking that hustle, we're making it an enterprise. And so the goal with that is a multi-community stakeholder cooperative that's owned by the employees. So it's employee-owned franchise. So we're looking at a franchise model with that. So that will open. And then we are opening a small business incubator. And what we really want to start doing is reseeding those 400 businesses that were lost. And between Dale and Lexington on Selby Avenue is designated as an arts and African American arts and cultural destination. We actually want the Rondo community is a destination, but how do we build it enough that it's a destination that people aren't just come to their house, right, to live. We want to activate it from an economic development standpoint, and so we're working on that. So if you take weaving together our commercial work, our economic work to strengthen neighborhoods and local economies, and building in climate resiliency and environmental justice into the work and cultural placekeeping, this is part of the reparative framework that we see as a tool to really, really accelerate and keep in control for our folks in this community. I want to talk a little bit about our shared ownership collaborative as well. So we can't always just do the work by ourselves, even though I like to think that we are, super mighty. But, we've got, along with that, we've got a couple of other really great organizations that we work with to be able to support the work that we're doing under our where we want to help shift the paradigm of community development. You all can read about where we center on, but it's really our purpose is really about organizing, land control, labor, and housing. And a little bit about what we each do and why we think we gel together as a collaborative is important. So Rondo Community Anchor, and a lot of the work that we do is work that we hope other communities can pick up and do as well. And then I'm going to stop here. We talked a little about what's our theory of change, right? And what we're looking at, what are the opportunities as a large scale developer? Our goal is to, be the large scale developers. And I'd like to say we're getting there. It's feeling really good. If we can take, so we're building an acquisition and development fund that we also are going to pair with a climate and environmental justice fund that really talks about community ownership of green infrastructure. And so because we own the land and we collectively together, and because we are developers and we're building and retrofitting, let's do what we can to ensure that the communities we serve are not also going to be continued to being faced with all the environmental hazards and things that happen, and how do we too help folks move to carbon neutral footprint as well. And we can do that, but let's not only own the labor from a economic development standpoint, let's also ensure that there's large infrastructure that really talks and gets at community wealth building. And so those funds will both be funds that we hope to grow, that they would also be investment tools for community. And so if we can really do that, our goal is to take, there's $1.5 trillion on the line with, new Green Deal, and really 40% of it, as Justice 40, is supposed to be leveraged in disadvantaged communities. But what happens is we always stay in the extractive. We are still extracted against in that. And and it's good that, that jobs are a part of that. Those are things, I'm not hating on any of that, but why can't we also own and be able to transition that to real long-term wealth building for communities? Okay. Ooh. Questions, discussion.
Well, let's return the screen to where we get to see everyone. Thank you so much, Mikeya, for the awesome presentation. I appreciate you taking us in, and I would say every component of the presentation deserves its own session. I mean, looking at the history and all the experiences our Black community went through um, by in the Rondo community, displacing 700 homes, 400 businesses, creating a barrier for this community to create generational wealth. People sometimes think, oh, this was happening in how many years ago? Um, it's a long time ago. But when you're looking at it from a generational standpoint, from an economic development standpoint, it's not very long ago. It's still impacting communities today.
It's still impacting the community today. As a matter of fact, gentrification and displacement is so rampant that, Rondo Community Land Trust has stood itself up as, we're going to do whatever it takes to maintain at least control of land and assets. And because we're here for 99 plus 99 years, then we have the opportunity to stewardship those assets, to help, folks, and to be able to figure out where, coming together in so many different ways. And, this work we didn't get here. This is 400 years of oppression, and it comes in many different forms. And, you have a lot of people that, the first thing that they want to say is, well, why can't they pull themselves up by their bootstraps? Well, hey, we did. We were there. We had our whole economy going. We were very happy on Rondo Avenue. And it was a cultural place, destination where people were coming to no matter where you lived in the community. And then, policy. And so, all right, that's fine. All right, well, we'll do that. But by the way, I'll just tell you, in a building that we currently were able to capture here in the Rondo community, as it serves as our offices, 4 blocks from Rondo Avenue, right where we were all kind of centered at, had a racial covenant on it. So you tell me where were we supposed to go? And then my uncle, who had a GI Bill, he couldn't use, though he had served this country, he could not use his VA
Like
benefits.
the benefits. Mhm.
And so, the community has pulled itself up by its bootstraps, and we are doing all the things that we feel that we need to do. And there are policies and things that still happen that make it hard for us to, maintain that. So as the community land trust and land control of land, just like new communities, we're saying we're gonna figure out how we're gonna, do this collectively together and have a little more control.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Mikeya. And I want to remind everyone and all our audience to go ahead and utilize the chat to drop your questions, your comments, your thoughts, as I'm going to start reading some of these questions to you, Mikeya.
Yes.
Um, so we just received a question from Joe Marie Morris, and Joe Marie is the executive director for the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing here in Rochester. And Joe said, I have heard from the Black community here in Rochester that they are very opposed to the shared equity model of community land trust. How do you address these concerns when you hear them?
I will say that you have so many people that I think that's the story, right? Like they don't know that this is part of their history. They don't know that this is part of their work. And so that's one way. And you have some people that are opposed to it, and that's okay. We talk about solidarity economy. How else can we support? But I do know when I've had community members, elders, and in the Rondo community who were like, oh, we can't get behind, like collective ownership of land, who are now coming to me saying, can I deposit my house into the community land trust? Because I see everything leaving. Or I was wrong around that. And this work is individual as well as it is collective. Um, we have to tell people that one of my favorite stories, I'm just going to go here. One of my favorite stories is the fact that we had a young woman, single mom, who purchased a community land trust home, 2002, 2004, I believe. She went on, got her PhD. Now she runs a Black-owned therapy practice out of our commercial building, and she's also expanded to other areas. So she's got, a few offices. She in turn sold her community land trust home. Her 25% equity in the money that she put into, uh, she was able to go out to the open market. And the only reason why she did that is because we didn't have any kind of like smaller houses. She didn't want to have a larger, she would have moved into another community land trust home. And and I've seen this in my own family. My great uncle had 40 properties that he owned in the Rondo community for rental. That wasn't a wealth keeper for everyone in the community, in the family. So they sold, kids sold off the things, and so no other generations are benefiting from that. Whereas we can say, hey, let's get together and these stewardship together assets that you can leverage. And housing as a fundamental right for everyone is really baked in the fact that a house was more about, I want to go to my Grammys, and that there's somewhere for us to stay when we get there, and there's somewhere else for her children to live. And then averaging the ability to take the money that you save over owning a community land trust home and investing that, and investing in yourself. A compound interest is going to get you more than sometimes more than what the value of your home is. And no one's guaranteed that they're going to get any equity out of their home. I mean, there's almost a guarantee, but you can have another market crash. I guess what I'm saying is, yes, you can have some folks that are could be opposed to it, but they don't understand it. And I think that is the biggest thing. Once they start understanding, once we get folks, I think we host orientation two times a month. We have sometimes 30 to 40 people in that room, community members, and they're like, wow, how come we didn't know about that?
Wow.
And
Wow.
again, I think it's the storytelling. I'd also like to state that though this community land trust movement was born out of the Black experience, I'm the first Black executive director of Rondo Community Land Trust that's been around for 40 years.
Wow.
And because I'm of community, and we're storytellers, and we want to understand we've been able to talk to folks about that. So
Mhm.
we're here to tell stories if you need. Like we can come, I can come. I'm happy to come to you to work with you. But you have a great land trust in Rochester as well.
This is awesome. Well, I know Joe Marie will take advantage of this offer. We talk about honoring and prioritizing lived experience. And when we see a community leader, whether it's in Rochester or regionally or in the whole state, who had the lived experience and can tell those personal stories, and it's more impactful than any other discussion because you've lived through it, you've seen it with your family members. There is a comment and a question from Molly, and Molly works at City of Rochester in historic preservation. That she did, I think, read Days of Rondo by Evelyn Fairbanks. My first, she said, her first introduction to the Rondo neighborhood community in early 90s. What are your thoughts on different ways of sharing stories and culture and heritage as method to change moving policy forward, which is just connecting to what we were just talking about.
I like it. Oh, you put me on the spot. I like it, Molly. Um, so as we discussed between Lexington and Dill on Selby Avenue, where we're really trying to bring back the just not bring back, but just re-solidify who Rondo is in a physical expression. Arts and culture plays such a role, and from a policy standpoint, it's really around how are we working to preserve from a historical standpoint? So we're actually we're hoping we're trying to figure out where it's gonna go, but we want to put a cultural center that really would serve as a repository in place for the spoken experience of Rondo, the written experience. So many things need to be collaborated and curated to put in that space that really talks about Rondo as a whole. And from a policy standpoint, for us, it's the um, the state of Minnesota ranks 47th in foundational Black homeownership. In the 50s, before 94 came through, we had the highest instance of ownership from physical buildings to homes. So we've lived the experience we want to see. We say, and the numbers are there, it's not reparations for reparations. It is there was a harm, there are impactful numbers, and we've done the studies. And the one portion of it is just 94. But there were other policies that happened. And when we go to racial covenants and redlining, well, those are all federally supported policies. And so we say, hey, there are some rights that need to be, by the way, when I have people who say, well, you get all your money, that's just taxpayer dollars. I said, hey, you know what happened when those 400 homes, I'm sorry, those 400 businesses and those 700 homes were lost, you know what they were still doing? They were still paying taxes. They're still paying taxes. So it's literally not about, it's reframing. It's we've been paying taxes and we've been getting the burnt end of the stick. And, we're just saying, as a reparative, here's all the information, the numbers, and here's where we need support and help. And we would like to use our taxpayer dollars to be able to do that. Sorry.
Oh no, no, this is great. This is awesome. And I went back in the chat and I see there is a comment and a question from Alan, so I'll read that. But I want to keep encouraging everyone to go ahead and type your questions or comments. So Al is a facilitator for and I'm doing a little introduction so you get to know some of our community leaders here. So Al is a longtime community leader and a facilitator for the Community Mobilization Resource Coalition, which is a group where BIPOC community leaders get together, and it's a space to provide resources and information. And Al said, in Rochester, as far I know, we do not have a Rondo historical displacement issue. Having said that, the land trust is a great model for DEI community engagement that says having an overreaching structure to drive economic and social equity. What can we learn from Rondo in our environment in Rochester to do our work? And that kind of relates to one of the questions I prepared for today's episode. As you probably heard, that Mayo Clinic, the largest employer in the state of Minnesota, making the largest investment in Minnesota's history, $5 billion for the initiative Bold Forward Unbound. Our community has been growing and is expected to grow more. And with seeing all the upcoming developments, seeing all the construction, all the possible projects that we could be having here in Rochester, what are some lessons that our Rochester community could learn from the Rondo experience and history in order to make sure that we are not displacing underserved, underrepresented communities, whether based on race or socioeconomics or whatever levels they are. So if you want to touch on a couple lessons for us to share with our community.
Awesome. So I just want to start by saying Rondo serves low to moderate income families, 80% AMI. Though, of course, we are centering and focusing on as well. You can do two things at once, like we multitask, it's good. BIPOC, underserved BIPOC community as well. So our reparative framework, I just want to say this, our reparative framework is also based in, we have other folks that were displaced for other kinds of things, like our Hispanic community. They came here, they were displaced from something called the Flats. We're working together to have our reparative economic development framework go there. But I would just like to say that regardless of if it's Rondo, I mean, that neighborhood was destroyed through that, but people have also been disinvested in all you have to do is look at all the social determinants of health and understand that the BIPOC, Black and Brown People Center and that. And that's the story. That's the story that Black and Brown people, regardless of where they live in Minnesota or across the country, in some instances, most instances, are still impacted by policies and disinvestment because we don't have people power together from a money standpoint. We're a capitalist society, and that's all right. But when you don't have the money, you don't have a voice. And so our goal really is, as developers, and what is shifting that paradigm around development is control of the development. And whether we're the developer or we're the landholder, we are working with community to say, what is it that you want to see? What do you need? And what does a community need to be thriving? And how do we center cultural, again, as that culture making as a placeholder for people to feel part of their community? And it doesn't have to be exclusive of other communities. As a matter of fact, we're the beautiful melting pot. It should be more inclusive of creating community, and it shouldn't be. When I came here to this work, and I said I want the real transformational work that I want to see for the Rondo community, and by hopefully we are able to do that along in all of the cities that we work with in Ramsey County, is to say we want to be the 21st century city, or city, yes, and community. And I have people say, well, that's going to displace. Why should that have to displace? Why should others be able to come in, buy up everything when this community and many others have been fighting so hard to clean it up, to make it safe, to all the things that happen, and then other people get to take advantage of it. That's when you think just even your own mind frame around what does reparative look like, it's just peeling back the onion to say, okay, what are the things that could potentially cause harm or have caused harm, and how do we get ready? And by the way, sometimes even as a community of folks, we may not always be ready, but someone needs to stand strong and say, you know what, we're just going to hold space. We're going to have space, and we're going to work with the community, and we're going to explain. It takes time. We've got to explain things. We need to storytell. We need to have people see where they have the power to move, and keep joy and hope. And that is specific to people and not just a place that happens. So when you're looking at what does this look like, it's literally how do they see themselves in the economic upward mobility of a community, and where are we holding space for those folks in the community? And I hate saying those people because we're not those people, but how do we hold space for people that have been marginalized from the system, no matter if that's economically or whether that's the color of your skin? And that is true, that happens. And I will say that, before Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King died, his real thing was about bringing folks together, no matter what the color of your skin was, but poor people's movement, because we got to get better. We got to do better. And everyone can still benefit all boats rise. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. But just know that bring community together, hold space for that community, have someone that has the intentionality of serving as an anchor. Understand that anchor is wide and it's deep and it's individual, because every person is coming individually and with their own trauma, with their own expectations, with their own things. And so everything has to be looked at on an individual lens. And you know what? That's hard work and takes a lot of time, takes a lot of resources.
Absolutely. Al, I saw you get unmuted. Do you have a follow-up comment?
Yeah, I have a follow. The question is that you also do development, right?
Yes. Oh,
So
yeah.
that means that does that mean that you have certain amount of financial resources within your organization so that if you see some kind of a housing investment that you can get at those resources to make that proposal, or you also work with other, finance institutes to really build up the case for investing for a certain kind of property that not only benefit the social part of it, as well as building wealth, right?
Yep.
For the BIPOC community. That's kind of my question, right? Your investment strategy, I guess, maybe.
Right. So coming on to the work, we are developers, 100%. We are trying to build a $250 million acquisition and development fund, so that we can compete. And the very special thing that I would also say is, like, don't let the good get in front of the perfect. The strategy is get land. The strategy is, put people in homes. The strategy is get people in businesses. The strategy is all of those things. And while we're also looking to, what do we need to do as an enterprise to be able to maintain what we need to do for 99 plus 99 years. So we built a 3-year, when I came on, we built a 3-year capacity strategy and plan. And then we got to work. I have a really amazing team, but we got to work in doing what some of us do best really is starting to look at the landscape, and then what are the opportunities, and placing ourselves to be able to do that. Now, there have been times I've been a little out in front of my skis, but that's okay. Where, you know, we're acquiring and purchasing, getting our development pipeline together. And so I would just say we are doing infill as a developer, where even just pairing people with part of our homeownership work that we do is something called our home buyer initiated program, where we pair someone that's mortgage ready, and we do a lot to get people mortgage ready. So we have a pipeline of mortgage ready folks. We pair them with up to 150,000 to purchase a home anywhere in Ramsey County. If you purchase in Rondo, we give you 200,000. And then we pair that with up to 60, so between 60 and $70,000 of rehab. And what we're looking at really is just what are those mechanical systems, lives, things that we want to ensure that that person has. So on top of that, we're saying, who are we working with? Who's doing the rehab work? How do we ensure that we're bringing either folks from the community or BIPOC owned businesses? And we do more than just that. So as a community anchor, right, we also have to make sure that they have all the certifications and things that they need. So while we don't do all of those things, we ensure that we have a ecosystem around that can guide and work towards those. So that's one thing. And then as we again look at the how do we help from a workforce standpoint and a business standpoint in this new green economy, we're developers. So we develop multifamily, we develop rental and ownership, we develop and buy and acquire, and buildings that need to be rehabbed. And we are looking at how do we ensure that we keep that solidarity economy going, while also, and helping people through that. So the strategy really is how much money what kind of investment fund can you put together to be able to do the work. And I want you to do what we do. I think about for-profit development, but with a social enterprise, because we need to be able to do what we need to do. We need to be efficient at it. We need to be able to be savvy and good negotiators for those that need to be negotiated with. If it's our community members, then we're on the other side where it's like, what harms were done to you, and how can we keep you more than whole?
Thank you so much, Mikeya. We want to be respectful of our participants and attendees' time. We're at time right now, and all these questions and comments are really awesome. I think we could definitely do part two if Mikeya is willing. We would love to. And I know that there was a comment from Amanda from Rochester Area Foundation about mentorship, and I'll make sure that I connect you with that. I want to just utilize these few minutes here to really show my gratitude and appreciation for Mikeya and the Rondo Community Land Trust for being with us today, and being able to share some of the lessons learned throughout the history, and how can we apply some of these lessons in the developments in our community. Thank you so much, Mikeya. Thank you. And then I would like to just quickly share with our attendees here that upcoming events, we will have our next Equity Alliance Equity Series episode April 10th with a new topic, a new presenter, new ideas. And then also from our friends at Rochester Area Foundation, we're sharing that the upcoming event, Still We Rise, Rochester's Black Legacy. They're hosting this event in April 19th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. And we will make sure that we do send the registration link in the follow-up email with the presentation material that we shared with you all today. I want to thank you all for being with us and asking some really awesome questions and sharing some awesome comments and ideas. And we hope that we get to see you next month. And until then, I want to remind everyone to honor March since it's Women's History Month, and that's why we're very careful by picking Mikeya to be our presenter today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. So honor all the women and all the leaders in your work, in the community. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.